I went to a white pride parade. And before you freak out, no, it was not Nazis marching in Hugo Boss. It was worse. It was upper middle class boomers with cargo shorts and privileged spreadsheets. Every flow had a white guy explaining barbecue, as if it was a culture. There were women named Karen trying to unionize the concept of passive aggression. I saw a man wearing a shirt that said I am colorblind, and I saw a child named Braxton playing Wonderwall on a ukulele. It was not hate. It was mayonnaise with a megaphone. They had booths. One was called Appropriation Anonymous. Another was for apologizing in advance. I saw a guy crying because someone thought he might be German. Another woman was doing yoga while crying about colonialism. Everyone brought gluten-free baked goods shaped like maps of Europe. Every chant was an apology for another chant. One guy held a sign that said proud, but not too proud, just confused. They all wore SPF 70 and Birkenstock for anxiety. This was not pride. This was a panic attack with oat milk foam. The opening speech was held by a man who referred himself as spiritually Scandinavian. He said whiteness is not a race, but a mood. Then they played Enya while releasing doves into a nonviolent sky. Someone called the police on themselves for privilege. A vegan couple got into a fight about whose ancestors caused more trauma. One guy asked if he could identify as off-white. Another corrected him and said it is eggshell neutral. I watched a group of white men try to form a drum circle, but they kept clapping on 1 and 3. It was like watching a cultural car crash in slow motion. I got offered a kombucha cocktail called Ancestral Shame, and it tasted like diluted TED Talk. I saw a kid with a sign that said my grandfather was a colonizer, but I am cool now. They offered reparations in the form of Spotify playlists and sourdough starter. Someone suggested building a statue of apology. It would just be a giant white man on his knees, crying into a recycling bin. They had a pride float called the Inclusive Iceberg, and it sank before it reached the parking lot. They held a moment of silence for everything. I tried to leave, but a woman stopped me and handed me a pamphlet called How to Be Less You. Another guy offered me a workshop on unlearning eye contact. There was an interpretive dance about tax evasion and the trauma of having a savings account. They invited me to a silent book club where everyone reads but never discusses. It was like entering a cult where the only rule is never raise your voice unless it is to cry at a brunch. They did not even have music, just playlists of ambient regret. I do not hate white people. I am just terrified by what happens when you give them a parade and tell them to express culture. It turns into a festival of historical footnotes and quinoa. No rhythm, no soul, just a parade of weather apps and Spotify wrapped results. Welcome to whiteness, not supremacy, just anxiety with sandals.